Hello, welcome to Cooking by the Books. I am Jill Allen. Today we are going to be cooking with one of my favorite fall vegetables, pumpkins. Now most people are familiar with pumpkin pie. We are going to make 3 recipes that are different than pumpkin pie, show you a different way to use this vegetable. Now pumpkins are members of the gourd family. They are native to North America and have been cultivated here for about 6,000 years. Pumpkins are loaded with fiber, low in calories, and have tons of vitamins in them. They're really good for you to eat. For ease of use, we are going to use canned pumpkin today. However, if you wanted to, be really adventurous and make your pumpkin puree from scratch, it's honestly not that hard to do. You would start with a little sugar pie pumpkin, not a big jack-o'-lantern type of pumpkin. Jack-o'-lanterns tend to be dry and stringy. This will have more flesh inside and be sweeter. So you would quarter this into wedges, scoop out the seeds. You can boil the wedges in salted water for about 20 minutes until soft, or you can lightly oil the wedges and roast them for about 45 minutes. I would let it cool, scoop the flesh out, and puree it. Now, canned pumpkin doesn't always contain pumpkin. It can contain other members of the gourd family, such as butternut squash or Hubbard squash. All of that is perfectly legit. If you've ever seen the inside of a butternut squash, you know that it's got more of an orange color than the jack-o'-lanterns do. All right, let's get started. The first recipe that we're going to make today is pumpkin spice waffles. Great way to start your morning on a cold fall day. Let's take a look at the ingredients. So this recipe uses 1 1/4 cups of whole wheat pastry flour, a 1/2 cup of pastry flour, and we've got some spices here. We've got 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, and a little bit of nutmeg. Now, cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg together comprise a spice known as pumpkin pie spice. You can see that in the grocery store, but if you don't have pumpkin pie spice and you have the other ones, don't worry, you can always make it up. It also uses a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs, 6 tablespoons of oil, a cup of pumpkin, and a 1.25 cups of buttermilk. First thing we're going to do is mix our flours together with our spices. Which you can see here. Okay, that's nice. Then we're going to crack our eggs into our bowl and beat them up a bit. So let's get that going. This. We're going to add our brown sugar, our oil, the pumpkin, if it wants to come out, which it doesn't. Here we go. And the buttermilk. And we'll blend it all together. Chunks of brown sugar in there that just don't want to get blended. There we go. You can see how nicely blended that is. Now we will add our wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. And gently mix them together. You don't want to beat them or you will have very tough waffles. So we will just sort of gently fold it together. It's okay when you're mixing them together if there's still a little flour that is not totally incorporated. We're almost there. Look at this lovely pumpkin color it has. All right. I would say that's about perfect. Now I need to heat the waffle iron and we will be ready to bake these. Now my waffle iron is hot so we can make these. Now I have a thing for waffle irons and I collect them. For my pumpkin spice waffles, I'm going to use my barnyard themed waffler because it seems to kind of go with the harvest vibe we've got going. So we're going to go ahead and spray the grids with a little bit of cooking spray, and then we will put in our batter. Let's see, we've got a pig, a cow, a chicken, and a barn. I often make the mistake of overfilling the grids, but no one complains if there's a little extra to your waffle. All right, let's see. All right, we'll close it up and let it bake and check back in a minute. All right, these waffles should be done. Let's take a little peek. Oh, look at them. They look great. Let's pull them out. So since they're such a dark colored waffles, it's kind of hard to tell when they're done by the coloring. So I would go by the consistency. You want them to be slightly crisp. You can see my strange animal shapes here. Let's see, let's get this barn out. Ooh. He's a big one. And my favorite, the one that I always want, is the chicken. He's got my mutant chicken going. We'll let this cool for a minute and then we will sample it and see how it is. All right, my little pumpkin chicken has cooled down a bit so we can taste it and see how it is. It's lovely, not too sweet. You can taste the pumpkin spice in it. This would be really good dipped in applesauce, topped with whipped cream or ice cream or maple syrup. I recommend it. The next recipe we're going to make comes from the Lancaster Central Market Cookbook, and it is a pumpkin cream soup. This recipe comes together really quickly and is that perfect taste for a fall lunch. Let's take a look at the ingredients. We have 1.5 teaspoons of chopped onion, 3 tablespoons of butter, 2.5 tablespoons of flour, 2 1/4 cups of pumpkin puree, 4.5 cups of chicken broth, and then our spices and stuff. We've got 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 3/4 teaspoon of ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and some white pepper. We also have 3 egg yolks that are lightly mixed and 1.5 cups of evaporated milk and some parsley for garnish. So to get started, we are going to melt the butter and saute the onions in it. Let's get this going. Our butter is melted. We're going to add our minced onions. Cook them a little bit. Get them soft. All right, the onions are soft. So at this point, we whisk in the flour and cook it over low heat for just a tad. You want to get it sort of smooth. This is how you're going to thicken your broth. So we'll give that another minute or so. And then we get to add all of the, well, most of the other ingredients. We hold the eggs and evaporated milk till the end. All right. The reason we cook the flour a bit is to take the floury taste away from it. It will taste raw if you don't at least cook it a bit. So let's see. Well, I think we're good there. So now we're going to add our pumpkin puree. Our spices. We use the spoon to scrape those in, make sure we get it all in there. And our broth. Oops, I'm making a bit of a mess. It's okay, I'm really good at cleaning up after myself. All right. And now we will bring this up to a boil. Give it a nice stir. You can see that lovely color it has. All right, let's let that cook a bit. All right, as you can see, the soup is nice and thick. That color is just so beautiful. The next step is to mix the beaten egg yolks with the evaporated milk and add it to the soup. That'll give it some richness. Once you add this to the soup though, you don't want to bring it back up to a boil. So let's go ahead and mix these two together. I'll use my favorite little spring whisk. All right, that looks good. And now I want to add it in and stir it. It lightens the color of the soup somewhat. We'll give it some nice body as well. All right, you can see how that changed the color somewhat. So now we're ready to try it. All right, soup is in a bowl. I garnished it with some fresh parsley from the garden. And now we will taste it and see how it turned out. Let's see. It tastes like autumn in a bowl. Our next recipe is a dessert from the cookbook, Pumpkin It Up. We are going to make creamy pumpkin tiramisu. So this recipe takes a cup and a half of heavy cream, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese, a can of pumpkin, 3/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, 4 tablespoons of apple cider divided, a package of ladyfingers, and some crushed ginger snap cookies. So the first thing we need to do is to whip the cream, which it takes a cup and a half. I've got a pint here. You know, let's go ahead and get this going. There's the cup. And here's the half cup. All right, let me get this plugged in and whipping. I believe I whip it with the sugar. Let's just take a little look. Yep, beat the cream and sugar until it is stiff. So here we go. We've whipped our cream to stiff peaks. You can see they stand up on their own. At this point, we add the whole 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese. Mascarpone is kind of like a cream cheese. There are substitutes you can use if you can't find it, but I know most of the grocery stores around here do carry it. So we'll add mascarpone. We will add the pumpkin filling, the entire can. And then our pumpkin pie spice, and blend that together just a little bit. Should make a thick, rich, very pumpkin colored filling. Let's see. Give that a good scraping down of the sides. Okay, that looks pretty lovely. You can see that that's a nice pumpkin-y mixture. All right, so the next step is to open up these lady fingers, and then we're gonna line our pan with it. The original recipe calls for a round springform pan, which I'm not gonna use. I'm gonna use a flat pan. This way I don't have to break the lady fingers up. So we line the pan with the lady fingers. It'll just take a minute. So this will be really good. Well, we may have to break them somewhat. We'll trim the edges off a couple of them so they fit. Lovely. And then we will brush them with the apple cider. Half the apple cider goes on this layer, the other half goes on the next layer. You know, while I was looking at this recipe, I thought, you know, it'd be really nice to put in here. Instead of apple cider, use espresso. And then you get that pumpkin spice latte dessert vibe. But for this, we're gonna follow the recipe exactly, because I do think it will still be very tasty with the apple cider on there. All right, almost used this all up. All right, boom. That looks very nice. All right, and now we are gonna put half of the pumpkin mixture over this. Oopsie, stay down, little lady finger. Next comes another layer of lady fingers. I like to rotate it so we have overlapping layers here. I just love tiramisu, so this is going to be fantastic. We'll cut off the tops of these so that they fit. Great. We brush it with the apple cider. Or espresso. All right, we'll just speed that baby along. All right, and now the rest of the pumpkin cream filling goes on top. This smells really good. All right, let's see. This is looking good. All right. So this needs to sit for about 4 hours or overnight before we top it with the crushed ginger snaps and cut into it. So we'll check back on it in a bit. So it's been a couple hours that our tiramisu, let's hope it's ready. I just can't wait to taste it, so let's do it. So we've got our crushed ginger snaps. that we are going to put on top as a garnish and add another little layer of flavor in there. Ginger snaps are another thing that make me think of fall. They've got that nice spice to it. All right, let's see. That's probably good. Okay, let's cut into it. Oh, it's feeling soft, so I think we might be good. All right, let me get my little plate here. Oh boy. So you can see the layers in this, okay? Oh, that is pretty. All right, let's see how it tastes though. All right. Oh, I think I have a new favorite dessert. This one, better than pumpkin pie. Thank you for cooking with me today. I'll see you next month when we will be doing recipes about soups and stews. See you then.